Hello, and welcome to In Retrospect. This is another COVID-19 social distancing podcast brought to you by Lysol. Send us more. We can't find them, and this is all we have left. So, running out. So today we are going to kind of talk about, for businesses that are able to, why now is actually kind of a perfect time. Almost you need to be marketing yourself, your brand, what you're doing even more. Like I said, if you have the means to, obviously, if you're closing down and laying off employees, you can't do that. But there's a lot of companies that are doing just fine, and some that have actually are hiring like crazy because of, whether they're in the grocery industry or things like that. So maybe we can just kind of speak on why you think now would be a good time to take advantage of this pandemic and not market off of it, but just use it as maybe a stepping stone to promoting certain things.
Yeah, I mean, just some very basic truths. Last week, television viewership in Tulsa was up 32%, but the rates for buying advertising didn't go up at all. In fact, they went down because of the economy right now. So you think about that. Can you spend the same, if not less money, and have 30% more people viewing your content? Mm-hmm. I mean, there you go. So I think the viability, that's really what it comes back to, is that the audience is more captive now than they ever have been. There's been so many times with various businesses where we've talked about, different marketing efforts that were put out for specific days to create urgency, and then the weather was really good. So because the weather was really good, all the people that they wanted to reach were at the lake or at the park or at the zoo, right. And it didn't work.
Right.
On the flip side, the same has been true about poor weather or snowy weather. Well, now we have a very, very, probably the most predictable level of activities with the mass population, more so than we ever have, which means they're sitting there and we can speak to them and they will listen more than they ever have been. And, I think that as you realize that, you go, oh, this is an opportunity. I can deliver content. I can connect. I can tell stories. I can sell products. I can tell messages to an audience that is 100% predictable. We know they aren't going out to eat at restaurants. We know that they're not at concerts. We know that they're not at the lake, things like that. And I'm not saying that that's exciting. I'm in that audience. I'm bored out of my mind, sitting at home on watching Netflix or using my phone. But because of that, you know how to reach me.
Right, exactly. And you mentioned television. I think it's the same for Facebook. I can't quote a specific statistic, but I know viewership is up while even the advertising revenue is down in the same case. So, but the audience is there, obviously.
When I think about social media, sometimes I think social media is going to be the end of humanity. So I actually, I'm like, even though we get paid to manage it and we make great content here at Retrospec, I hope it goes away. But no, I think that, social media is very interesting because it is an opportunity to actually engage and get something back from the audience, which is exciting. And I love, I think that's really why for so many years I was so committed to the concept of having a social media department at Retrospec, because I knew it depended on the ability to create good content. And we've always created phenomenal content at Retrospec. So that always excited me. But beyond that, what I loved being able to measure results. I can't tell you how many times way back in the day we would create things. It happens with TV all the time. And it's like, how many people saw it? I don't know, and so that's what I've loved about social media, is that, when we're posting the videos, we're able to calculate the metrics of how many people watched it, what demographics were they in. We can boost to certain demographics. We can geofence stuff. We can send it directly to audiences. And then when it's over, we can measure it and say, how many people liked it? How many people loved it? How many people commented on it? How many people shared? What was the total reach? What were the engagement numbers? What percentage of the total reach was engaged? And that allows us to make intelligent marketing decisions that are very based in the creative space too. And since I'm typically I got the camera in my hands or I got the pencil in my hand and I'm writing stuff, I can look at these great ideas that I had and ask myself, were they great ideas? Maybe they weren't. Maybe we change it up.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what has really, made social media exciting for me. And in this time, I was just looking through some of the numbers of one of our clients in Springfield, but our audience from March to February doubled. So we went from 40-something thousand people looking at the content on Facebook to 95,000 people in March. And I'm like, wow, that's insane. That's crazy. So if you think it's the time to like slow down or not speak or no one's listening or no one cares, it's actually the opposite. There's twice as many people that are looking and listening and ready. Now, are they pulling out their wallets? Potentially not. They will eventually though, and they will remember those that spoke to them.
What are some tips or tricks maybe that people could use for just reusing content, using certain websites or different things like that we've seen that have worked that maybe that would be helpful for some people?
If you have a cell phone, use it. I mean, if you have a live audience, if you have an audience, you have every opportunity to engage with that audience. That can go from a large corporation to a small company. And get creative. This is the time I would say to get any idea is not a bad idea at this point. People are online and watching. So if you can find a way to just get creative and get innovative with what you're doing, I think that's fantastic. Also, just look around. I mean, look and see what other companies are doing, and you might get an idea or two. So, I mean, there's a way to, I would say, if you're a company and you're a smaller company, and like you said, don't have the resources necessarily to go out and film something new, for example, to execute on what you have in your hands, be creative, and then ask yourself meet them at their bus stop. Where are they at? Where's your audience? What are they thinking right now? What is that business owner thinking of? What can you help them with? How can you meet their needs? It's kind of, those are simple statements I think that we could always ask, but I think it applies right now.
Yeah, I think that, like I was saying in a previous episode, but the fact that the playing field is going to change, and there will be companies during this time that either rise to the occasion and become the new category winner in the minds of the consumer for certain categories, and there's an opportunity for that, and it shakes the playing field up. I mean, I think it's the beauty of America is the fact that if you want to do something or achieve something great or build a business, you can do it based on your energy and effort and willingness. And even though this whole situation does suck, it does create this unique opportunity for people that are motivated and energized to start pumping conversation out there and pumping content out there and, really connecting with the people that want that information. Those people will become the category winners when the recession is over, when this whole economic crisis is over. So it's very unique. I mean, I think it comes down to personality. Are you the personality that wants to sit back and watch your business slowly dwindle? Or are you the kind that says, I'm going to rise up and do anything and everything that I can because this business will be successful when this thing is over? And there's not a lot of mediums you can use because, heck, social media is probably the best one because it's the most social distance friendly medium that's going on right now.
Actively engaging.
Yeah, actively engaging.
Mm-hmm.
Billboards are hard as people are driving less. Television is still great.
Mm-hmm.
Radio is still great. But social media, like I said, you said, Nathan, it does create the opportunity for people to connect, engage. You can send them to your website. You can have them fill out forms. There's so much you can do in that space to really translate things into sales. You look at like Amazon. You think Amazon's hurting right now? I don't even remember the percent that they're up right now. You know why they're up? Because they're solely on the internet. That's why. And everybody is solely on the internet. Why can Amazon not even staff enough? They can't even have enough vans to deliver the stuff. They're backed up so far. That's because they were ready to be solely digital when the world went solely digital. So as others realize and adapt, it will help them get through this seasonal change.
And we can say this, and Brandon, you're a part of this too, but Retrospec is doing all of those things as well in this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, with this podcast and others.
I think we kind of got to a point, and I think it can almost be a bad thing to a certain extent, but we like to do, I think, everything is with excellence basically at Retro. Like the quality has to be as top notch and as perfect as we could beat it up to be. But at this point now in the season that we're in, obviously you can't just throw quality out the window, but I think that it comes to a certain point where it's like, okay, if I do a live video on my phone, is that going to be okay? That'll get the point across. Instead of, we're like, no, we have to bring out all the cameras, we have to do all the lights and everything and just make it this big production to get a point across. It's like, no, you don't have to do that now. Like, nobody's going to be offended or upset or be like, they didn't take the time to really make that video awesome. It's like, no, they know what their audience needs and what their audience wants, and they're doing whatever they can to get that content out there, whether that's a podcast or that's posting a video or a picture or a newsletter or updating your website. I mean, we're doing all of these things because we hadn't had the time, and now that we have some margin, we're doing it. But, you know, we're doing it because we see a need, and we're like, now let's just go. It doesn't have to be perfect. We need to make it good and put a best foot forward, but it doesn't have to be this huge endeavor where we're, you know, pulling out everything on all the stops.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said. I mean, that's a whole nother, a whole nother podcast in itself. But, I've certainly read lots and lots of books and business books and marketing books and different theories on perfection and execution. And, it's amazing. At least at this point in my career, I'm definitely at this place where being able to put something out is of greater value than something that is a perfect, magical piece of artwork.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And as much as I love artwork, I do. I mean, gosh, I'm a perfectionist to no end. It drives me crazy every single day. But really, so many great ideas just become nothing because they're not executed. They could have still been pretty darn good ideas. They may not have been perfect ideas, but they still would have caused movement and traction and interest in brands and products and such. And so I think it really is about hitting the record button and taking the photo and posting and writing and just putting material out there because people are hungry for it. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be, shot with an Alexa or a Red. It can be shot with the phone. It can happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Another thing that I think is really unique to do during this time is to sharpen your tools. And I think that sometimes, marketing is simply a tool. Communications is a tool. Social media is a tool. And if you think of it quite frankly, like a tool, it's like whenever you're, using a machete to cut grass out in the field and it gets dull, but you're like, I got so much grass to cut, I got to keep cutting, or using a hatchet. And it's like, it's getting dull, but you wham it harder because you're like, I got to go because I'm so busy. I don't have time to stop and sharpen it. This is a unique time that I think you really can sharpen your tools, improve your website, improve your video presence, improve your social media. Look at all these different elements that you're doing as a company that communicate and connect with your customer and say, how can I sharpen my tools? I never had the time to slow down and care and talk through and think about who the audience is and what colors do they like and how can I really, really speak to them well. You never had the time because you were slam busy for 5 years. That's fine. So right now, instead of just sitting around and doing nothing, sharpen your tools. And I mean, that's what we're doing here at Retrospec. And it's exciting because when this thing is over, all of our tools are going to be sharp. They're going to be oiled. They're going to be functional. They're going to be ready to go. And then we can focus on operations and we can focus on killing it.
Yeah. We talked about a little bit internally just about how do we aim for the next 5 or 6 months? And I think if you look at that very granularly, it's looking up and ahead at the next 5 months and having that target. It kind of helps you create the content. So yes, I can go work on the website because I'm looking up 5 months ahead. Yes, I can put content out now because I'm looking up 5 months ahead. And I think that's helpful. So where you're not looking down, I guess, and just stopped. Don't get stopped. Just keep moving. That's what I would say. Just keep pushing.
Yeah.
Back to you, Forbes.
Well, I think that does it for this episode of In Retrospect. Hopefully some of that was helpful for you. We appreciate you guys listening and stay tuned for the next one. And Lysol, send us more wipes.
Lysol.
Please.
Lysol. We got to work on these endings.
Sweet. No, then perfect. What are you talking about?